Hello, my name is John Rose. Today is June 3rd, 2018. It's a Sunday, 2 weeks before my 64th birthday. And I sure hope you guys can hear that chicken clucking in the background. I've filmed at this location many times, as you'll recognize the trees in the background. First time I heard a chicken clucking, and it sort of distracted me about what I was going to come out here and talk about, because it reminded me of something I thought of a long time ago I was going to do a video on. And it has to do with the conversation between a person who tried to eat a raw food diet and went back to cooked food, and they're trying to explain what happened to them. And they start off by going, goose, goose. Anyway, I got silly one day and I thought of that. And I thought I'd start off the video with something silly. As I mentioned, at this time of year I get extremely reflective, and that has a lot to do with my personality. I've done 10 videos so far on Personalysis. I'm very fond of this personality test. I encourage everyone to learn more about it because it's so important, because so much conflict in our lives comes when other people don't obey our rules. And this just happened to me the other day with somebody who I know is a triple yellow. And boy, those people are friendly in every situation, and they just can't understand when you don't think that's their number one priority. So it's real easy to break their rules. And it's funny because they can sometimes have a tendency to blow smoke up people's ass, because what's more important to them than anything is to be your friend. And a lot of times they won't tell you what you need to hear so that you won't be their friend. Many times they're the last person to tell you got some spinach in your teeth, or you got a burger hanging out of your nose, or your breath smells really bad that day, or something like that. And I've had several occasions when I encountered people that were triple yellows, and I wasn't obeying their rules. So this personality test is really helpful to understand not to take things personally when that happens to us. So as I mentioned, I get real reflective at this time of year because of my personality. I'm a triple blue. I'm blue, yellow, and then blue, green. So every personality possibility I have, whether I'm doing something I like to do or feel I should and think I should do, or what I'm doing that feels good, that's my number one personality trait. So as a result, I am very reflective in life, and again, I always get reflective at this time of life. And always kind of go back saying, okay, I'm 64 coming up here, or what happened, what was I doing when I was 4, 14, 24, 34, 44. I do those type of things. Again, very reflective. And it's really interesting to have this knowledge of this personality test, because now I can go back and revisit my childhood and look through adult eyes and understand experiences, and even the same thing through my adolescence and early childhood, or early adulthood rather. So it's interesting how different personality traits go from point A to point B, for example. It's interesting how they perceive time and space differently. So in this video, I'm going to add on to what I've been talking about, one of my favorite subjects, Personalysis, a test used as a tool, a management tool based on quantum physics. This is so well done, it's just amazing how accurate it is, how useful it is in so many ways in life. So to remind you guys, we got 4 main traits, and each one has about a dozen characteristics. So this is just a test to basically describe what our choices are going to be based on whether we want to act, talk, think, or analyze. Red, yellow, blue, or green. Got about a dozen things we can do in each one of those. The dozen will all describe that red personality trait, or the yellow, or the blue, or the green. And as I mentioned before in my other videos, usually 2 colors will dominate, and that will form 6 main personality types of modes. And then there are 3 ways in which we can use those. Doing something we like to do, which should be our type of work we do. And then the middle graph is how we'd be managed, how we deal with authority. And the bottom graph is important. That's our home behavior. And that's what's really important. That's what we feel we need to do. So when it comes to how these 4 colors look at time and space, for example, or let's start off by saying how they look, how they go from point A to point B. Reds, remember, Reds act, they do things quickly. So their motto is ready, fire, aim. They go from the specific to the specific. It's a straight line, fast, they don't waste any time. That's the reds. Now we look at the yellows, they do things friendly. So they go from the general or the specific to the general. They always take things that are specific and make it general for the group. In contrast to the yellow, we go down to the greens, they're just the opposite. They go from the specific or the general to the specific. It's just the opposite. They want the details. Now when we look at the blues, they're the only ones that go from the specific to the general back to the specific. Again, these are the blues, these are the deep thinkers. They may be thinking 4 or 5 times more than all the other traits, all the other color personality traits. So that's how they go from point A to point B. Now as far as time and space, the space line is from green to yellow. I know the flat earthers are going to love this one, but according to Nolan, it begins with the Big Bang. That's the greens. That's the past. That's how they look at time. They're focused on the past, and the timeline goes into the yellows, into the future, so the yellows are looking to the future. So time-wise, we've got the greens being focused on the past, the yellows being focused on the future. The space line is on the blue-reds, and it starts in the blue and goes to the red, and this ties into the Doppler effect. So when objects are coming to you, they're going to sound different, and they're going to sound different as they go, but they're also going to look different. They're going to have a blue light coming, a red light going. So that's the blue mental energy and the red physical energy. Now remember, we have a convex lens on one side and a concave lens on the other as far as personalities go. Red, yellow, blue, green. This is the divergent side. This is where we have a concave lens. And on the other side we have a convex lens. This is convergent. So because this is convergent, the reds are going to contract time, the greens are going to contract space. And then the yellows and the blues, they're going to expand space and expand time. Blues expand time. So again, time-wise, we've got reds in the present, yellows in the future, greens in the past. Blues are projected. They can do all three. They can take something in the past, something in the present, project it in the future. They can take something in the future, bring it back to the, compare it to the past and compare it to the future or the present. As you can see, the thinkers are the only ones that go from the specific to the general to the specific. They're the only ones that do all three. They're not just focused on the present, which is really, or the present right up here, the reds, which is really where we want to be, right? And you don't want to be focused in the future too much and focused on the past too much. But again, so the point I guess I'm getting at in this video is I get very reflective at this time because I'm a high blue person. It's easy for me to take my birthday coming up, it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to come up here shortly, and reflect back in the past and just kind of be in awe of where I am today. In all honesty, I really am. I always go back and say, imagine, John, when you're 14 years old, could you have ever imagined this is what you'd be doing for a living or to spend your life? And it's not even a living. I'm not making money at what I'm doing here. But it's all my time. Philosophers don't build things, so they don't make a bunch of money, I guess, unless they sell a bunch of books or something. But that's what a philosopher is all about. Remember, when we look at money, reds, they want to make it, yellows want to spend it, blues will budget it, and greens will save it. So I'm not a high red guy. I don't care about money. That's not what floats my boat. I'm a philosopher. I'm a triple blue philosopher. I spend most of my day in my ivory tower trying to figure out a clever way to tell this message, so hopefully one of my videos will go viral, and that will bring everybody to all my other videos. And virtually every video I have is made in hopes that it might be the one that goes viral, which is one reason why I repeat myself so much, making sure that people get enough information to really understand what's going on. So I get real reflective for a reason at this time of year. It's part of my nature and part of my personality. It's how my mind works. And I was once again reminded just the other day of how most conflict occurs. And it usually begins when someone else is not obeying our rules. So please check out my other videos. I've done 10 other videos on personalysis so far. I'll put a link down below. in the description box, which will link to all my other videos. Plus, I have it's part of my playlist. I'll be sure and add this latest video onto it also. Again, it's really important for us to understand ourselves. It's important to understand other people so that we minimize the amount of conflict in our lives. And sometimes it's almost unavoidable. A lot of conflict occurs with our belief systems. And of all the things I reflect on, that's probably the thing I reflect on the most, is how I was brainwashed the first 10 years of my life, how I was brainwashed the next 10 years of my life, how I grew up watching stupid TV shows that made me feel proud about getting my polio vaccine. Watched TV shows to make me have opinions on things I didn't know anything about. I shudder to think how easily I was brainwashed and manipulated when I was younger. And how most people never figure that out. And then they don't want to, do they? Cognitive dissonance, fear. It's a big piece of the puzzle, my friends. When you're on the hero's journey and you're trying to go back down in Plato's cave and people are screaming at you because you're trying to get them to look into the fire, it's a very ungrateful job, to say the least. And having been down there ourselves, we understand what they're going through. But when you attack somebody's belief system, you might as well be coming at them with a baseball bat. And again, the big problem with our belief system, you know, there's just too many references that back up all those false beliefs that are contrived. It's part of our conventional wisdom. Just think about the person who goes to work and grabs a newspaper, make sure he catches up on the news, comes home, can't wait to turn on the boob tube, and even though they might have been told they're being brainwashed, they continue to do it. And they still buy into that crap. And they have opinions that they think are their own. Very few of us on this planet have any original thoughts. We just parrot what our masters want us to parrot. And it's sad. Because sometimes you just gotta give up on some people. And that's not an easy thing for me to accept. I like a challenge. I like to think, well, maybe I just haven't said it the right way. But when it comes right down to it, I think it's hopeless. I really think some people are brain dead. Once you have so many references in your brain that support bullshit, and any other knowledge comes and threatens that, it's just not going to work. They're not going to allow it. And the biggest factor, again, goes back to fear, cognitive dissonance. Very few people really want to know just how sick of a world we live in. And yet, if you don't understand that, what's going to motivate you to do anything about it? So, it's a numbers game. Don't give up on the ones you really care about. I won't. Although I'm feeling that way right now. You can't tell. I had a conversation a couple days ago with someone. And I go, damn, I was afraid you might be blowing smoke up my ass this whole time, and now you just confirmed it. Was hoping that wasn't the case, but it is. I may elaborate on that someday, but I think many of y'all can kind of figure out what I'm alluding to. Excuse me, I've got a mustache hair in my mouth. Yep. A lot of times you think you're getting through to somebody, but if they're a high yellow person, they don't want to hurt your feelings. They'll blow smoke up your ass instead. They mean well. I have to emphasize one thing about this personality test. There are no right colors, or there are no wrong colors. Each color is going to be perceived a certain way by others. The triple yellows are going to be perceived by people a certain way. And the key is they're going to have their rules, just like the triple blues are going to have their rules, and the triple reds and the triple greens, or whatever combination of colors you have. You're going to have your own rules. And again, that's why this test is so important. For you guys to understand, like I understand, I know I have my rules, but I don't impose them on anybody else. And when other people start imposing them on you, there can be some conflict. Hopefully you can talk about it, but the problem is once you figure out what color they are, you realize they don't want to know. I'll share 2 examples. This happened to me a couple years back, and I saw a guy at Memorial Park that I used to see at Whole Foods all the time, and we always talked and had some good conversations. He was an engineer, and we got to talk a little bit longer than normal because it was at the park instead of a grocery store. And he asked me what I was doing, and I was telling him about this schematic that I create. I said, "You're all like this. You've been an engineer. I love talking to engineers because they really understand how a schematic works. And I use this to give the definitive answer to 3 main questions. Of course, there's 2 preliminary questions to the first question and 1 follow-up question to the second question. So there's really 6 questions, but still, I use my little tool to explain all that. So I said, the 3 main questions is, why do we have so many problems? Why aren't we solving our problems? And before I could say how, which I knew he'd get all excited about, because that's the question that the Greens like, is how do you solve our problems? Before I got to the 3rd, he goes, "You shouldn't ask why questions." And as soon as he said that, I realized, yeah, you're a red-green personality, and those aren't your questions. But philosophers ask why and what if. So for a non-philosopher to tell a philosopher what to do is kind of a joke. And then when I realized, well, this is kind of funny to me. I'd love to tell you what's happening, but high-red people like you got little bitty cups, and you're not even going to want to know why. So I'm not even going to explain it to him. I actually literally just had to walk away from the guy. The other person that was a similar situation said that, "Boy, I'm really disappointed in you. I can't believe you're wasting your time studying this." I said, "I'm wasting my time studying something, and you're not a creative person. You don't know what it takes for creativity to work. You got to put input in from a lot of different topics. Except the topic I was talking about was the major focus of all of my work. Why are you wasting your time?" So that's what's so good about this test, is when you can understand where the other person is coming from. They're going to think you're an idiot because you're asking why and what if, and yet that's your job. I don't go to an engineer and tell them what and how to do their work. I'm not qualified, don't have the ability, but I also don't have the willingness to do so. That's not my personality trait. But anyway, that was what I had happen to me recently. And of course, as soon as they said that, I realized, well then, you've been blowing smoke up my ass the whole time, pretending that you understand what my message is all about, and then you make this comment at this stage of the game after you've heard dozens and dozens and dozens of stories, and you think I'm wasting my time talking about this subject matter. Disappointment, yes, very disappointing, but it's also challenging. So again, that's the key in life, is you gotta take a look at these things. Don't let them get to you, because they can, especially if you know that person. Is that dog struggling on his calorie? No, it's okay. Especially if that person means something to you, and they could not be with you that much longer. Again, it can be a challenge, can it? Can it not? So please don't get discouraged. Stay positive. Realize that you never know when you find that one person who can just then explode and end up telling billions of people. You never know who that one person might be. So keep staying out there, my friends. Please study this personality test if you haven't done so yet. You're going to find it's really simple to understand. Again, it just keeps track of if you're going to act, talk, or think, or analyze in 3 different situations. And then you'll see, okay, I like to act and talk most of the time, so I'm extroverted. I should be doing this type of work. And then this is what I am down here. This is what's going to motivate me. This is what I am here in the middle. This is what's going to This is how I want to be managed. This is how I want to be talked to. Again, a very, very valuable tool. It's one of the most important things that I think we need to learn in addition to knowing how to live, because this is part of knowing how to live. You know, we have 12 essential needs, and you know, that includes our mental state, our emotional state, and this all ties into our personality. So it behooves all of us to know ourselves better, know other people better, try to avoid conflict and help the other personality trait understand what's going on, unless they're red, because they don't want to understand. Picking on the reds today. I'm not, actually. No, reds you can find, if they're your spouse, you better make them understand. But that proves my point here, is that that's not an important thing for a red to do. That's what the blues want. Blues want to understand. So you can see how already I'm explaining everything from my limited perspective. Blue, 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 blue. And then remember, if there's ever any conflict in life, it is between the reds and blues. This is where most marriages occur, and 80% of them fail. And then when they marry someone like themselves. Reds love to tell you what to do, and blues don't want to be told what to do. It's not a good situation unless you understand each other and can work it out. And when we all learn how to be the best we can be by eating the best food we can and by knowing ourselves and knowing others better, woo, buddy, this world will be in for a treat.